Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Magic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and today we're going to continue on with our discussion on great cards from Unlimited, or 3rd edition, or whichever you have. In a previous episode, I discussed the Power 9, and we looked at some of the artifacts and the dual lands for this expansion. And we're going to continue on from there, as we will take us a couple more episodes, at least maybe 2, maybe 3, to discuss some of the great cards from this expansion, some of which are still being printed today and you can use on Arena and can find in recent expansions as well. Before we get started, don't forget to check out the disclaimer in the description below. It'll save us both a lot of headaches. So without further ado, let's get into the cards.
Alright, let's begin with white, as our first card for today is Animate Wall. This enchantment casts for 1 white. Enchant Wall. Enchanted Wall can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Always nice, especially since walls have definitely made a comeback, at least in Arena. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it's going to cost you a little bit, as it's a rare, and it is currently worth $29.82, but it has been reprinted several times. Next up, we have a card I love to play with, especially in my white angelic deck, and this is Armageddon. This sorcery casts for 3 colorless and 1 white. Destroy all lands, not only yours, but everybody's. So it's quite a land board clearer. Of course, use this after you've got an army of creatures out, and then just unmercifully pound your opponent. This edition is quite expensive, though, as it currently runs for about $148.43. However, it has been reprinted several times. There are some cards out there that are just strictly a dick move. And if you have an opponent who just has been having a lucky day, just getting out lands like crazy, well, you're going to want to play this card, Balance. This sorcery casts for 1 colorless and 1 white. Each player chooses a number of lands they control equal to the number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest, then sacrifices them. Players discard cards and sacrifice creatures the same way. Yep, this is really fun, especially if you're just having one of those days where you just can't seem to get out a large number of creatures, lands, and whatever. Yep. Unfortunately, this card has been banned in a lot of tournaments and restricted in others, but and if you'd like to add this card to your collection, it's going to cost you a little bit, as this card is currently priced at $154.86, but it has been reprinted several times. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while now, you know I always recommend 1/1 creatures that cast for 1, for obvious reasons. This is Bellinish Hero. Now, this 1/1 creature that casts for 1 white is pretty cool. It has banding. Now, banding is something that was done away with mostly because people didn't really understand it. So they're like, you know what, heck with it, it's gone. But for those of you that don't understand banding, I'll try to explain it as best as possible. And again, this comes from Scryfall. Any creatures with banding and up to 1 without can attack in a band. Bands are blocked as a group. If any creatures with banding you control are blocking or being blocked by a creature, you divide that creature's combat damage, not its controller, among any of the creatures it's being blocked by or is blocking. Yeah, it's still kind of confusing, I know. That's why I said it was done away with. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will only cost you $1.14, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. Now we go to a card that's easy to understand, and that is Blessing. This enchantment casts for 2 white. Enchant creature. Tap 1 white. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Basically, you're making your creature a Sheevan Dragon, a pumper. Nice. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it'll cost you just a little bit, as it's currently worth around $39, but it has been reprinted quite a few times. Next up, we have a card that must be in every single white deck that you play, and that is Disenchant. And I'm not kidding. Put this card in your white decks. What it does, it's an instant. It casts for 1 colorless and 1 white. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's really hard sometimes to destroy enchantments when they come out. Artifacts, there's lots of things that destroy those, but enchantments sometimes are hard to get rid of. So get this card in your deck, at least 4 of them. And the best part is this card's not too expensive. If you'd like to get this edition, it'll cost you $7.66, but it has been reprinted a bunch of times. Next up, we have another very practical card with a low casting cost. Again, one that probably should be in every deck, every white deck if you can swing it, and that is Healing Salve. This instant casts for 1 white. Choose 1. Target player gains 3 life. Why you would use it on anyone but yourself, and prevent the next 3 damage that would be dealt to any target this turn. This card is really common and is pretty easy to come by. If you'd like to get this edition of the card, it will cost you 95 cents, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. Next up, we have yet another very practical card, and that is Holy Armor. You know what they say, sometimes the best offense is a great defense. This enchantment casts for 1 white. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +0/+2. Tap 1 white. Enchanted creature gets +0/+1 until end of turn. Good pumper in defense. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it's really inexpensive. This edition will cost you 95 cents, and it has also been reprinted quite a few times. Next up, we have another holy card, as early on the white cards really did stress the whole religious aspect. And this is Holy Strength. This enchantment casts for 1 white. Enchanted creature gets +1/+2. Pretty cool. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, this edition will cost you 80 cents, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. All right, next up we have Lance. This enchantment that casts for 1 white gives enchanted creature first strike. And what is first strike? It means that creature gets to hit first, which is kind of cool in what would be an equal battle. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you $3.52, and it has been reprinted a few times. And next up we have Resurrection. Yep, going back to that whole religious thing, we have this. This sorcery casts for 2 colorless and 2 white. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Nice. If you would like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you $4.61, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. And next up we have Reverse Damage. Love the artwork. Pretty girl. Anyway, this instant casts for 1 colorless and 2 white. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. You gain life equal to the damage prevented this way. I don't know why this card doesn't get used as much as it used to back in the day. It really was one that we used to play with a lot if you played white. This particular edition will cost you a little bit, as it's currently worth around $44.90, but it has been reprinted a few times. Next up, we have another card that you don't see getting used as much anymore as it used to be, and that is Righteousness. This instant casts for 1 white. Target blocking creature gets +7/+7 until end of turn. A nice card for a low casting cost. Anyway, if you'd like to add this to your collection, the unlimited edition will cost you around $28, and it has been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have a really great card, and what a bargain, and that is Savannah Lions. This creature casts for 1 white, and it's a 2/1 creature. Pretty cool, huh? What's not so cool is the price. This card is quite valuable. This edition will cost you $195. Yeah, I know. But it has been reprinted a couple times for much more reasonable prices. And next up we have my all-time favorite Magic card, and that is Sarah Angel. This creature casts for 3 colorless and 2 white. It has flying and vigilance. Gotta love that artwork too. Their artwork for this card has just been great over the years, but nothing quite beats this original by Douglas Schuler. Just beautiful. What's not to like? It's a great card, and it's been reprinted several times with different artwork. And It's still in print. I have them on my arena decks. I mean, what more can you say? It's just probably one of the best creatures in Magic. However, this version will cost you a little bit of money. The Unlimited Edition is currently worth around $80. However, it has been reprinted quite a few times and is still being reprinted to this day. I also forgot to add that yes, I did have Creature Love back in the day, and it would break my heart when my opponents would destroy that card, but it would just motivate me to smash the fuck out of them even more. Okay, next card we have is Swords to Plowshares. This instant casts for 1 white. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Nice. Especially if you're really desperate for life, just sacrifice one of your creatures with this. This card is a little on the expensive side, as this edition will cost you around $72, but it's been reprinted a couple times at much more reasonable prices. And next up, to wrap up white, we have one of the best cards in white, and that is Wrath of God. This sorcery casts for 2 colorless and 2 white. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated, including your own. Now, when would you use this card? Well, when your opponents have more creatures than you, especially if you're playing against somebody with a goblin deck. This will really make them cry. Literally, they probably will start crying right there at the table, which also can be kind of cool. This edition of this card is a little on the expensive side, as it's currently worth around $154, but it's been reprinted quite a few times at more reasonable prices, which is, again, is why I tell you if it's been reprinted. So definitely a card you should get in your white deck. Alright, so let's move on to the color blue. Now, blue back in the old days was a little bit different than blue today, as back then blue was more about counters and actual magic, as now it's kind of gone in a different direction, especially with the fact that they have banned the card counterspell. Jerks. Alright, so to lead us off today is Clone. This is a neat card that I still see being played today, and I myself love this card. This creature casts for 3 colorless and 1 blue. You may have Clone enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Oh yeah, your opponent's got a big 10-10 or 12-12 or just a really cool creature with some cool abilities. You got one. Yes. This card is not too expensive, as this edition will cost you $12.70, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. Speaking of banned cards, I still don't like that, we have Counterspell. This instant casts for 2 blue, counter target spell. What more do you need to say? Great card, definitely one you should have in every blue deck, except if you play on Arena, of course. This edition of this card's a little on the expensive side, as it's currently worth around $120, but it has been reprinted several times. And next up, we have a card that you can play on somebody that has Creature Love, and that is Creature Bond. This enchantment casts for 1 colorless and 1 blue. When enchanted, creature dies. Creature Bond deals damage equal to that creature's toughness to the creature's controller. Yep. This will slow down some of those people that are reluctant to kill their creatures. Yes, if you'd like to add this card to your collection, it's very cheap. It will cost you 83 cents, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. Alright, this next card is a real fun one. Listen carefully to the description. Drain Power. This sorcery casts for 2 blue. Target player activates a mana ability of each land they control. Then, that player loses all unspent mana, and you add the mana lost this way. This card's pretty cool. Definitely not too expensive. If you'd like to add it to your collection, it will cost you around $38, and it's been reprinted a few times. Alright, and next up we have Flight. Another fun card. It's an enchantment that casts for 1 blue. Enchanted creature has flying. Nice. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it's very inexpensive. It will currently cost you around 76 cents, and it's been reprinted quite a few times. Next up, we have another really useful card, and that is Invisibility. It casts for 2 blue. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't be blocked except by walls. And if your opponent has not gotten onto the whole wall craze, that creature's pretty much unblockable. If you like to add this card to your collection, it will only cost you $1.37, and it's been reprinted a couple times. And next up, we have the Mahamati Jinn. This creature casts for 4 colorless and 2 blue. It is a flying creature, and it's a 5/6. Pretty cool. This is one of the only Jinn in the early days of Magic that does not have some price to pay. Like, the Juzum Jinn, you lose a life every time, or the one Jinn, the green one, where your opponent gains Forest Walk. This one, it has a high casting cost, but no drawbacks. If you'd like to add this one to your collection, it'll cost you a little bit, as it's kind of expensive. It's currently worth around $87, but it's been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have another really fun card to play against somebody, and that is Mana Short. This instant casts for 2 colorless and 1 blue. Tap all lands target player controls, and that player loses all unspent mana. Yes, this card's a little on the expensive side, though. It's currently worth around $60, and it's been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have another 1/1 creature that casts for 1, and that is Merfolk of the Pearl Trident. Yeah, this card is not very expensive. You can add it to your blue deck for the low cost of $1, and it's been reprinted a couple times. Alright, next up we have Power Leak. This enchantment casts for 1 colorless and 1 blue. The guy looks like he's been shot. Ugh, what a picture. At the beginning of the upkeep of Enchanted Enchantment's controller, that player may pay any amount of mana. Power Leak deals 2 damage to that player. Prevent X of that damage, where X is the amount of mana that the player paid this way. Yeah, definitely a fun card to play against somebody that just loves enchantments. Yep. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it's not expensive at all. It'll currently cost you around 79 cents, and it's been reprinted quite a few times. Next up, we have kind of a minor celebrity in the Magic world. That is the Prodigal Sorcerer, also known as Tim. I'm not sure where that comes from, if it just kind of, that nickname kind of just stuck. He's also called a Plinker. And he casts for 2 colorless and 1 blue. He's a 1/1, but you're thinking, why would you want to pay that much for a 1/1? Well, because you tap him, Prodigal Sorcerer deals 1 damage to any target. That's why he's called a Plinker. Pretty cool, huh? If you'd like to add him to your collection, which I highly recommend, he isn't going to cost you too much. He is currently worth $1.79, and he's been reprinted quite a few times. In other words, put 4 of these in any deck that has blue. Next up, we have a card that's kind of been lost to time. You don't really see it get played much anymore, and that is Psychic Venom. It casts for 1 colorless and 1 blue. This enchantment enchants a land. Whenever enchanted land becomes tapped, Psychic Venom deals 2 damage to that land's controller. If you'd like to add this to your collection, it will only cost you $1, and it's been reprinted a couple times. Next, we have another card that you really don't see that much anymore, and that is Siren's Call. This instant casts for 1 blue. Now listen carefully. Cast a spell only during an opponent's turn, before attackers are declared. Creatures the active player controls attack this turn if able. At the beginning of the next end step, destroy all non-wall creatures that player controls that didn't attack this turn. Ignore this effect for each creature the player didn't control continuously since the beginning of the turn. Okay. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will currently cost you $2.49, and it has been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have a card that I love to play with, and this is definitely in the dick move category, and that is Stasis. This enchantment casts for 1 colorless and 1 blue. Players skip their untapped steps. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Stasis unless you pay 1 blue. Oh, this card has really caused some real damage to people, and I love playing with it. It's in my blue deck. If you'd like to add this card to your blue deck, it will cost you around $52, but it's been reprinted a couple times. So please add this to your blue deck and make your opponents cry. Next up, we have another pretty cool card, and that is Steel Artifact. It pretty much is what it says it is. It's an enchantment that casts for 2 colorless and 2 blue. You control Enchanted Artifact. Nice. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it won't cost you too much. It's currently worth $3.81, and it has been reprinted a few times. We have another card you don't really see much anymore, and that is Twiddle. Another fun card. This instant casts for 1 blue. You may tap or untap target artifact, creature, or land. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you around $2, and it's been reprinted a couple times. And next up, we have a card that is still being used today and is still active on Arena. We've all used it, and that is Unsummon. This blue instant casts for 1 blue. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will only cost you $1, and it's been reprinted several times and is still being printed to this day. And next up, we have another one of my all-time favorite Magic cards, and that is the Vesuvan Doppelganger. This creature casts for 3 colorless and 2 blue. Listen carefully to the description. You may have Vesuvan Doppelganger enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it doesn't copy that creature's color, and it has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may have this creature become a copy of target creature, except it doesn't copy that creature's color, and it has this ability. So in other words, every upkeep you can switch it around and make a copy of something else if you like. Really a practical card, and one that should be in every, I would say, mono blue deck, but pretty much every blue deck. This edition of the card is a little on the expensive side. It will cost you $113, but it's been reprinted a couple times, so a must-have. Next up, we have another practical card, and that is Wall of Air. This creature casts for 1 colorless and 2 blue. It's a defender, and it's flying. It's a wall, a flying wall. Cool. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you around $2.86, and it's been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have another wall, and this is Wall of Water. It casts for 1 colorless and 2 blue. It's a defender, which means, it's a wall, it can't attack, but it's a pumpable wall. For 1 blue, Water of Wall gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Talk about a defender that fights back. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you around $2, and it's been reprinted a couple times. And our final card for today. Yep, we finally made it to the end, so thank you for sticking with me this far. And this is the Water Elemental. This 5/4 creature casts for 3 colorless and 2 blue. Yes. If you would like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you $3, and it's been reprinted a couple times. Well, that brings this episode of Magic Gamer 74 to a close, Planeswalkers, and I really hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with me through this episode. I know it's a lot, but, there's a lot of great cards in this expansion, and I want to give as many details and help you guys out as much as I can. So if you enjoyed this episode and you think this is something you'd really like to watch regularly, please give me a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload new material. And as a bonus, I want to let you guys know that I am going to have another kind of add-on to this, and that is going to be special Magic Gamer 74 episodes that just kind of pop up out of nowhere. They're called Magic Gamer 74 Extra. There's not going to be any warning or any, you kind of have to be following the channel to catch these. And these will be just a couple little added things to help you out with some advice from a person, me, who's been playing Magic the Gathering for over 20-some years to help you build better decks and other stuff like that. So be on the lookout for those. And of course, in our next episode, we're going to continue on with the Unlimited expansion. So until next time, Planeswalkers, I will see you all in the arena. Bye for now.